Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to this What Do You Want to Watch Spoilercast for Fear Street Part 1, 1994. I'm actually Hawke. Joining me today, Dylan Blight.
Feels really weird to do a spoilercast for a horror movie review, but here we are.
Yep, hard to believe. Had all the lights on. Had my blankie. Right, please be aware we will be freely discussing anything and everything about the plot, themes, and ending of the film. So if you haven't watched it, come back later. It is currently only available on Netflix. It's a Netflix film. So with that said, let's jump into our discussion of Fear Street Part 1, 1994, directed by Leigh Janiak, screenplay by Leigh Janiak, Phil Graziadei, story by Killen, Phil Graziadei, Leigh Janiak, based on Fear Street by R.L. Stine, starring Kiana, Madeira, Olivia Welch, Benjamin Flores Jr., Julia Rehwald, Fred Hechinger, Ashley Zukerman, and Maya Hawke. After a series of brutal slayings, a teen and her friends take on an evil force that's plagued their notorious town for centuries. Dylan, obviously this is the first one of 3 Fear Street films we're getting in the next 3 weeks, or 2 weeks now, I guess, technically. What do you think of Part 1?
Had Maya Hawke get her name in the credits? It's pretty good.
She played the Drew Barrymore role, right?
Yeah.
Or as I like to reference, the Carmen Electra role.
Yeah. Yes. But I don't think she was in the credits, though.
No, she was in the credits. She was like right at the start.
Yeah, but I don't know. That was just my fun. I didn't remember who was in this movie, so she showed it up star. I was like, oh shit, Maya Hawke's in this movie. And then 10 seconds, well, a couple minutes later, I'm like, oh shit, Maya Hawke's about to die. You know, so. Yeah, I thought this was really enjoyable. I thought it was good. It was, it's pretty interesting that they managed to take I don't know what age group R.L. Stine, like, books are generally.
Wikipedia says Fear Street was a teenage horror fiction series.
Yeah, but I think they're like young adult, right? So it's like what, 12 to, like 12 up type novel. They're not like 16 plus, 15 plus. It's like 12 up. I think that's
yeah,
what
probably
age bracket. Like young adult. Oh yeah, YA. Oh, anyway, they managed to take that and they've turned it into a MA here in Australia. I think it's R in America horror movie. Pretty much earns it just because the last couple kills, I guess, and themes, and I mean they take a lot of pills as well, which I'm sure helps move that up a little bit as well.
Yep.
But overall, yeah, I thought this was really enjoyable. Obviously, it has a lot of elements. Be it Scream, as we was talking about before, this feels heavily influenced by Scream to a degree. Not as like self-referential, but just the general tone, vibe, the way it starts, everything like that. You've got someone chasing after people with a knife in a mask. And it feels more Scream-esque than like Jason Voorhees or Mike Myers. Like it feels, I think it's because you got the cloak thing or whatever, so it feels more like Ghostface Scream than other killers and stuff like that. I liked the core cast. I thought they were generally pretty good. I think it's important to note that this is a horror film that breaks tropes instead of plays on them, because obviously Scream played into its tropes for the most part and then broke them like right at the end sort of thing most of the time, but it still played into a lot of tropes on purpose, and a lot of horror movies do. This is a horror movie where black character doesn't die and the
people who have sex
gay
don't
characters
die.
Also don't die. Well, the gay characters, the gay characters don't die. So, and anyone LGBTQ plus is or black or a person of color in general, I guess, usually die. So I do think it's important to note that this film actually sort of differs from most horror movies, where it's very tropey that.
What you're saying is this film is woke.
Survive. I mean, for a horror, yeah. I mean, if you want to call it woke, sure. But yeah, it definitely stands out by the end. I'm like, holy shit! The only characters that lived were the ones that usually die at first. It's like, but yeah, so that was cool. But otherwise, I enjoyed the cast. I think they were well scouted like young actors for the most part.
Mhm.
So props to, I guess, the casting director, whoever the hell that was, because they did a pretty good job there. It's kind of like getting together the cast of like Stranger Things or something where you're like, well, where the fuck did these people come from? Like I enjoyed all of the cast. I thought they were pretty good. The kills were good when they happened, like especially at the end. You got these really brutal, fucked up kills, which were quite exciting. I thought the lighting was a little bit too on the nose. Like you have this very, as people like to call it, bisexual lighting, and there's just a lot of it. And I'm like, is this a 90s thing? Because I don't think 90s and think like neon colors, like the purple and the green and whatever else, the blue tinge or whatever. But there's just a lot of it to the point I was noticing it, especially it's like right at the start and then right at the end again in the other supermarket. I'm like, what? Everyone has this same fucking colors set up. Is that a thing here? And then, there's something. Oh, the other thing that kind of annoyed me. It was fun for a while, but like there was too many. They had a bit too big of a budget on music licensing.
Yeah, that's something I was about to bring up.
Yeah, that was my other sort of annoyance where. At first, I was like, oh, cool, they got this song. And then they're like, DJ skip next one. DJ skip next one. Like, I'm like, fucking calm down. Like, it really feels like you're like, I've got a budget. Let's get many,
this is the easiest way to remind people it's
90s.
The 90s, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, it's the 90s. Let's get these 90s songs. Like, you don't need like 10 90s songs to remind people it's the 90s. You've got the one, like, you open with one, you have one in a bit later. Like, you don't need them literally cutting one another off. That was sort of a jolting, annoying thing that the movie definitely did with the music. Good music.
Yeah.
Was enjoying,
and it made,
like good songs, nothing against the songs.
It kind of made sense. Obviously, you started with her mixtape, and then you had the brother listening to other 90s music downstairs, drowning out all other noise. But yeah, it did feel a bit overpowering. And then at the opening segment, the prelude, the music was very like horror movie, like heavy, hammy almost. That kind of stuff. I enjoyed it. It wasn't overly terrifying. I think it's like a fun. This is the level of horror I can deal with.
Well, this is what the kids call Ash a slasher.
Oh yeah.
This is the genre of horror we are watching right now. This is a slasher.
Thanks, Doctor, Professor. Yeah, I enjoyed the cast. I think they had a nice, good chemistry. Even the other weird white guy, he apparently masturbated during that scene by himself in the school bathroom.
I don't know what
that's
what you gotta do, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, whatever to calm yourself down.
Yeah.
They've set up an intriguing world that they're going to explore backwards. I guess is kind of interesting. Obviously, this is the main storyline that they're going to be following. I expect next week they'll do a flashback and then they'll resolve everything by the end of 1884. But yeah, this I enjoyed. I thought, I found the world building quite interesting. I've got lots of questions, like mainly about who is the person he's talking to in the chat room. That's going to be somebody important, right? Can't be just some random person.
No, I assume that has to be someone because they're talking about the murders and the idea of the witch and all this sort of stuff. So it'd be really weird if that wasn't someone that doesn't have a payoff later, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I had a good time. It was very kill heavy at the front, and I think there was a long period in the middle where there wasn't any kills. And then I was like, oh wow, they're gonna let all 5 of these people live through to the end. That's crazy. No, they didn't. Poor, what was her name? Kate.
I don't know. Yeah, that sounds right, Kate, yeah.
Poor Kate getting put through the bread slicer.
The meat grinder, or whatever it was. Bread slicer, there you go.
Brutal.
You know what? I actually think they put cake on her face so they could show you that closer up, because it looked less fucked up.
Yeah.
Because she had like cake on her face. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that makes it less fucked up.
Slightly.
Yeah, kind of. But overall, really good time. Looking forward to the next one. Yeah, there were a lot of smaller details, like the fly thing. I think I noticed. Like, I thought it was like a weird CGI thing at the start of the film. Obviously, that turned out to be some sort of witch thing later on.
Yeah. So the witch the fly was on Old Maid at the start prior to he turned into killer, and then after they killed Sam, the fly, you see flies fly away where the killers were, like they transformed back into flies or something.
Definitely. Is the plan to like blow them up, well, set them on fire? That was pretty good, pretty clever.
Yeah.
It
was pretty clever.
Didn't pay off. The bathroom definitely survived all that fire. It's crazy
somehow.
And then the other thing the major nitpick I had: how'd she swallow all those pills without any water?
You can't swallow pills without water?
I mean, not like 50 that she was trying to do.
She's doing like, what, 10?
10 at a time. Be a lot easier if you gave her some water. You're in a supermarket. You're stealing stuff already.
Life or death. Maybe you can't take water. Maybe it defeats the purpose of those drugs. I don't know.
I don't know, yeah. Also, a very quiet town where nobody else is noticing all these murders. Except the police officer who says... The only thing he does is says, it's happening again.
Yeah. So who did he slide that to? Was it to Gillian Anderson or someone else?
I assumed that it was at... Oh, maybe it was. I thought it was he went to their house.
Who? Their house? Like the kids?
Dina's house, yeah. It looks similar.
It has...
But now you think it...
I assumed it was someone else. I assumed it was a mystery person. And I'm like, either it's Gillian Anderson's character, who we'll get to next week, obviously, or it's someone else that we don't know of who plays into this. Because he's also doing this whole weird thing where every time he interviews them... Well, at first we think he's just actually like, you use a batshit crazy. Girl. But then he does this whole, it's happening again. So then as an audience, you say, oh, the sheriff knows about this sort of stuff. But then when he's interviewing them at the end, he's sort of trying to coerce them into talking about what's happening. But because they're refusing to, he doesn't really say like, hey.
I know.
You know, like,
I know what's
that's
happening.
kind of annoying. So I'm like, why is he, it's like, why are you playing around? Yeah, so the sheriff has something going on. Like, I don't know. This is that whole small town horror movie thing where everyone has a secret.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then it's interesting the split between Sunnydale and Shadedale. That's what it's called.
Reminds me of Riverdale.
Riverdale, yeah, but the what's it? Lower side, east side? I can't remember. It's been a few years.
I feel like there's a lot of things in this that will come into play
in the next couple episodes.
It's like
films.
So, like the mayor. I'm like, surely the mayor's going to be a kid character in this. I'm sure I could look this up if I wanted to, but I'm like, the mayor seems somewhat cheesy or weird or something. I'm like, surely there's something going to be to this mayor. And then we never see the mayor again. So now I'm like, oh, is the mayor going to be a kid in the part 2 next week? Then it'll be like learn something about him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? I also can't help but wonder. I'm like, we're going to spend most of the time in the flashback, but I'm also just wondering how much time we'll spend out of the flashback. Like, how much time does it get to move that plot forward slightly? Are they going to come in and out, or is it just start of episode, current day, flashback for an hour 20, come back out for another 10 minutes?
It's got to be
you know, like
I feel like it's got to progress this one forward a fair bit, because I can't imagine it'd be too interesting knowing that everybody except one person already dies in that summer camp massacre. You know?
Well, I figure it has to be. So she's going to tell them, they're going to go find Gillian Anderson. She's going to tell this whole flashback story about how she survived the curse or the witch or whatever. And then amongst all this, they've then got to learn something that makes them track something else down or someone else down that leads them to have a flashback to the witch trial. And then amongst all of this, somewhere they've got to figure out and learn something that helps them save Sam from the witch.
Yeah, they've got to put the witch down or everybody dies. One or the other.
Yeah. So I feel like maybe if one episode is going to have less flashback than another, it would be episode 3 maybe, because then you need more time to actually wrap up the main storyline, right?
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So this series were meant to be films that were released into the cinema. Obviously, part 1, and then they were meant to be released a month apart. I don't know how well that would have worked. I think, just from seeing part 1, I think it's a good thing they showed up on Netflix or a streaming service.
I don't know. This is like a decent horror movie. I feel like it would have done alright at the cinema. In a normal world, horror fans
horror fans would have ate it up. I think.
Yeah, it's decent horror movie on the big screen. Like, it feels like it would have done alright.
Yeah, but would you have gone to see the next one a month later? Probably. Actually, no. I say about.
I would have. Yeah, I would have.
I guess it would have mattered. It would have when in the year they would have released these.
They would have done it. They would have wanted to do it line it up over American summer or whatever summer break period or whatever.
Yeah.
In a non-COVID.
In a non-COVID world. Who remembers one of those? All right.
Not me.
Anything else you want to discuss about this one? I will say I was surprised by the Sam reveal that she was a girl at the start. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
I clicked onto it because you know what they did? It's like a camera. They do it away with the camera trick or the focus when I don't remember the main character's name. What's the main character's name?
Dina. That's not a good sign.
Yeah. So when when she's looking at Sam as she's getting kissed and groped by dipshit who dies later.
Thank God.
The person's whose face you can see is hers, and his face is like covered up by hers, Whereas if you think about any movie ever, literally any movie ever, where a character is jealously looking at someone else, it's all the person's face you see is always the character that they are attracted to and who's important. So as soon as they did that, I'm like, oh, Sam's a girl, cool, right?
Okay.
I'm telling
you, I think they gave equal face screen time.
You see his face at the start when they have a long shot, a wider shot, and then when it goes back for the more closer shot, his face is behind hers, and it focuses on her face, and it's just I was like, okay, it's Sam.
Just I don't watch enough horror movies too.
You should watch enough rom-coms and stuff. I feel like it's in a lot of rom-coms.
That's fair.
Yeah, come on.
We'll say the little brother is my favorite character out of all of them, I think. The little kid.
How old is he supposed to be? Crush. I looked him up later. The dude's actually 18 in real life, so I was like...
Yeah. I think he's meant to be playing like 15, 16.
Like, yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, and they're
I
high
feel
school
like the
seniors,
age difference between... It's like 1 or 2 years, maybe? Like, age gap or whatever. It's not like a big, like, Stranger Things age gap.
No.
It's just a year or so. Yeah. I know.
Yeah. So, let's know what you thought of Fear Street Part 1, 1994. We should just call it Fear Street 1994. Get rid of the Part 1. But anyway, I digress. Let us know on Twitter by going to explosionhour.com/Twitter or jump to Discord at explosionhour.com/Discord. If you want to help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser. And if you enjoy our Spoilercasts, maybe head over to our COVID page at explosionhour.com/support. Leave us $1. Every little bit helps keep the lights on here at the Explosion Network. Well, I guess join us next week when we're talking about Fear Street Part 2, 1984? Was it 84? I can't remember.
1974, isn't it?
1978. Very wrong. Yeah, we'll be doing a spoilercast for Fear Street 1978, so join us then. Until then, thank you very much for listening and keep watching stuff, I guess.